Hello and welcome to a brand new experiment on the channel. You've seen it from the thumbnail. This time it's what if a billionaire invests in Turkey. Turkey have been a very requested nation to do actually on the channel in the past few videos. So we're in Turkey this time, which is quite an interesting one because I don't know much about Turkish football. So I'm hoping to learn a fair bit about Turkish football and things like that. So for the sake of this video, we'll call Turkey a European country. I know there's a split down the middle of Europe and Asia. Obviously Istanbul is the sort of split point there between Europe and Asia. But Turkey takes part in UEFA competition, so for the sake of that we'll call it European, I think, essentially. So we look at the population, of course, 80 million. Turkey is one of the biggest countries in Europe actually in terms of population and things. I think Germany might be slightly bigger, I think. So there's a big pool of players to choose from, really, Turkish players. So I'm kind of thinking that if some of these Turkish sides use their youth development pretty well and they start to develop some pretty decent players, I reckon the Turkish league could in fact go to become the best league in Europe and things like that. So that'll be quite interesting to see, I reckon. So we'll have a look at the Turkish Super League in just a moment. First of all, we'll look at the national side quickly. If we look at the national team and just look quickly on this custom view that we've got for the billionaire things and things like that. The best player currently, Arda Turan, currently 30 years old though, so getting on, will probably retire soon rather than later. But the current ability of 154, that's pretty decent to be fair. If we look at potential ability, Turan is still the best, and then Çalhanoğlu is probably the best player actually who could possibly still improve. He's 23 years old, a potential of 160. He has maybe a chance to get to that. 23 years old, he's on the edge of it really. Enes Ünal, playing for Levante, probably could get there as well to 157. He's only 20 years old as well. So we've got some decent prospects actually, the Turkish side, but hopefully with the money that we give the actual Turkish teams, perhaps they will start to go on and create a better national team. Perhaps even the Turkish national team could become best in the world. Currently 19th in the world. I'm thinking perhaps they could get into that top 10, top 5 for example. So the Turkish Super League sits 10th in the European rankings overall, which is the highest league we've ever done in a billionaire experiment. So we're starting up pretty high actually. There's a lot of decent sides in Turkey. Besiktas, Bursaspor, Fenerbahce, Galatasaray, all four of them together actually there in the table. They're all pretty decent sides to be fair. They've all been, I think you'd probably call those the best four sides. Trabzonspor is probably there as well in like top 5 I suppose, those kind of teams. There's a lot of teams here though that I'm going to really struggle to pronounce, so do forgive me in my pronunciations. I know I'm going to butcher all these teams already, so we'll talk about them later on, of course, when we start to see the results from the experiment so far, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to butcher a lot of these names. So we don't just have the Turkish Super League involved here, we've also got the Turkish First Division as well, so we've got that kind of things there. A few teams actually got point deductions for financial mismanagement, 4 teams. That's pretty interesting, we'll have to monitor that as that goes through as well. And then the league splits into 2 different second tier, or third tier leagues I suppose, Turkish Second Division, but of course there's Super League First Division, Second Division. There's a white group, and there's also a red group, which I suppose is named after the colours of the flag and things like that. So there's a lot of teams actually in Turkey that could do pretty well. There's a lot of teams, a lot of leagues have got loaded here. So this is probably the most extensive that we've done in all of the experiments so far. Now in the Turkish Super League, we have given every single team £1 billion. I've clicked continue there by accident. I didn't mean to do that. When we come back, here we go, we're back here and on this team again. So we edit the club details, go to their finances. Every team in the Super League has been given £1 billion and a wage budget of 500 million, which is the maximum, of course. What did surprise me actually was how rich a lot of these Turkish teams are. A lot of them did have a lot of money actually, and a lot of teams already had sugar daddies, I think. I think Besiktas have one apparently. If you look at their finances, yeah, they've got a back-end sugar daddy, which I think means that perhaps they give loads of money towards the end of a season, I think, rather than a front end, which gives it all up front. And I'm not entirely sure on the terminology and things like that. And quite a few teams, I think Galatasaray have one as well, a team that I can remember. I feel like they've got an underwriter as well, and they've got a back-end one actually instead, not an underwriter. But some teams do have underwriters as well. Again, I'm not entirely sure what that actually means, underwriter. If someone knows, let me know in the comment section. We've done things slightly differently in the Turkish First Division. Rather than give everyone £1 billion, we've just gone on their balances and put them into the 100 millions. So for example, like a team like Adana, for example, if we look at them, edit club details, finances, they must have had 50 million in the bank or 5 million in the bank, put 2 zeros on the end to make it 560 million rather than just round it up to £1 billion. Just try and create something a little bit different and just trying to create a bit more of a structure, I suppose, really. Just try and make it perhaps a little bit different to other experiments we've done as well. So this team, Adanspor, for example, look at their finances, for example, they've only got 149 million, for example. We've done similar things in the second division as well, but rather than giving the hundreds of millions, they're on the tens of millions as well. So there's still a bit of structure going in place there. There's still a bit of a hierarchy of teams. So it will take a big effort for a team to get promoted from here into the first division and then once again get promoted into the Super League. It'll take a big effort for a team to do that. To try and create a bit more of a structure to it. But it is interesting sometimes to see which teams can come forward and do some real decent stuff. So for this first season then, I think what we're going to do, because I think because the Turkish division is quite high in the rankings already, I don't think it's going to take much time for the changes to be made. So we're going to only go to the 2020 season. So we'll go back to July 2020. So we'll play 3 seasons, I think, in a row. I think that'll be enough time. I think there will be some significant changes in that time. So we'll go 3 seasons in this episode. We'll see exactly what happens. And I reckon a lot is actually going to happen. Make sure you leave your predictions down in the comment section for what's going to happen. Make sure as well you drop a like on the video if you like this idea. And of course, if you're new around here, subscribe to the channel for more experiments like this. And of course, lots of other Football Manager action and stuff like that on the channel as well. So we're back now 3 years in the future. And as you can see here, just from the initial screen, that Turkey have fallen to 41st in the world ranking. So I hope that's not a sign of things to come. I've predicted that things are going to improve pretty quickly. We're actually perhaps now starting to go downhill a little bit. National team has certainly now 41st in the world. I guess they didn't have a good schedule in the past few years. I mean, last year looked pretty decent, I suppose, but they did lose to Norway twice, lost to England once and drew with them. But I think that's not a bad year, I don't think. Year before, not the best, I suppose. They did get knocked out of the European League divisions. I think they got relegated, actually, looking at this. It says they're third, actually, in the group, so perhaps they didn't do that well, but they had a good Euro World Cup qualifying, rather. I say good World Cup qualifying, but didn't actually get there, looking at 2018. So they didn't make a World Cup and they got relegated from their international group. So actually, I suppose, perhaps it was a poor performance from them. Just looking at the national team then, Kana Kokak, a name that I've probably absolutely butchered there. He looks to be the best quality regen so far, 19 years old, but 173 potential. Looking very nice, actually. Got some decent stats on him there for a right back there. Good tackling, good technique, good marking, things like that. So that's what you want to see. Could be a bit more physical to get himself better, but I'm sure that'll only get better in time. He's only 19 years old, so that's pretty good. But no other regens as far as I can see. The under-21 side is only one decent there. 165 is the best there from Ahmet 7. 96 current ability there, that's why he's not in the first team. But 165 potential is pretty good at 18 years old, so hopefully we'll see some good stuff from him in the future. And in the 19s, 151 is the top potential there, so not quite as good as the under 21s, obviously. Right, looking at the Turkish Super League, then the top league in Turkey, it's only moved at 1 place in European rankings. Now, obviously, it gets much harder to move at places when you're in the upper reaches of it. It's all to do with the European coefficient. So actually, if we look at the actual European coefficient, then we have to go to Europe. And then is it nation club coefficients? Yeah, I think it is. So Turkey's currently sitting in 9th here. Will overtake Belgium actually when this season ticks over. So it will go into 8th place for next season, just behind Portugal. So it could overtake Portugal and perhaps Russia in the next few seasons, but we're going to have to see some incredible European performances for it to break into the top 5. But I think with the money we've given it, it probably could do that towards the end of the experiment. Let's have a look through the table then and see what's happened the past few seasons. And if we go back to the first season that we did, Besiktas won it, retaining their title. They won it this season before that, with Galatasaray finishing runners-up there. 7 points behind them, which isn't the best. And then Fenerbahce, Trabzonspor finishing in 4th, and Bursaspor finishing in 5th. The season afterwards, Galatasaray win the title by a single point from Besiktas, drawing on points actually with Trabzonspor. They finished just ahead on goal difference there, so that's the issue there. Fenerbahce finishing in 4th, and Bursaspor finishing down in 5th this time here with this team, Malatyaspor. I think that's perhaps how you pronounce it. Again, I'm sorry for butchering all this. I know I'm not a native Turkish speaker, so it's going to be pretty difficult for me, and I'm sure many people are going to be cross at me in the comment section. Jena finished down in 13th, which is probably quite a usual finish for them, actually, not doing particularly well there. And then if we look at the season we've just had, Besiktas do retain their title. They win it back from Galatasaray, finish 2nd on 66 points. Trabzonspor finishing 3rd once again, ahead of Antalyaspor, I think is perhaps how you pronounce that, and then Bursaspor finishing in 5th. I presume poor, it must be like something common in the language, obviously. Like, I'm not sure what it would perhaps mean, but I know like in British teams, obviously, everyone's called like United or City. So I imagine that is perhaps something similar on the end of those names, perhaps like a United or a City, I don't know, it's just all put together, it's Turkish language. Obviously I don't speak Turkish, I don't really know what it means, but I presume it must mean something similar across all these teams. So they're the 3 seasons that have happened. It's been the big 2 winning it, the past 2 seasons, coming 1st and 2nd, getting those Champions League places. If we have a look down at the 1st division, which has got a playoff final, of course, looking at the league table over the past few years then, if we look here, then we can see runaway champions here on 71 points, 9 points ahead of their rivals, who are a good few points ahead of a team that finished in 3rd there. So a pretty competitive league this year, I think, in terms of below the top 2. As you can see here, a whole host of teams finishing on 53 points and 54 points and things like that. It's very, very close throughout the rest of the table in certain sections, but these top 2 teams did do pretty well to steer clear of that. Right, if you look at these teams that had financial mismanagement though, would that change anything? So this team here, Besiktas is, again, I've butchered that completely, but they finished 4th actually, so they would have finished 3rd if they hadn't got that 3-point deduction, but that would have still put in the playoffs, so it wouldn't have changed too much, I don't think. This team, I'm just going to say like the first unit letters actually, I think. Esk, for example, let's look for Esk. Whereabouts are they? Where are Esk actually? They finished in 14th, so they avoided relegation despite the points difference. Gaz did the same thing there, just there in 10th. And then Manisapur finished down at the bottom of the table. Despite having a 3-point deduction, it wouldn't have done anything to save them, so they got relegated anyway. And then we'll look at these two regional groups pretty quickly over the past few years. Season afterwards, again, very, very similar. The top 2 teams sort of dominate, and these rest teams here, all very, very close in things like that. Really, really close and tight, actually, for the rest of the table. And then the season we've just had, it's a bit more tighter at the top with the 2 teams getting promoted. Once again, the playoffs pretty tight, and a few teams finishing on 46 from 45 points there. So I love that. This is a good league, this is a very, very tight league, which is really interesting. And then we'll quickly look at the Turkish second divisions, or the white group and the red group leagues. In the white group, I assume these teams finish in the playoffs because they have to give a playoff final or something like that, or a playoff relegation battle with teams in the league above. Not entirely sure how it works in white, showing them as playoffs, because the next season there's someone else gets promoted. So I presume there is a relegation playoff of some sorts and things like that. But Manisapur won it in that season, for example, and then the season afterwards, a few other teams getting there. But again, very, very close points total. Only so many teams finishing on 50 points there as well, and it's really tight at the top as well. This is really interesting. I do love how tight these leagues are. It does mean it's obviously very, very competitive. In the red group, of course, Bursaspor champions in that first season with another team, Hatayspor getting promoted there. The other teams finishing in the playoffs but not getting promoted. Season afterwards, only the one team getting promoted. Afyonspor finishing top by a huge margin, but these other teams, look again, 56, 56, 54, 54, 52, 52, 51, 50. And then the season we just had, Ahmed Sportif have been promoted. They're the team getting promoted there on 65 points. And then once again, it's pretty tight in those groups as well. I mean, 61, 59, 56 are pretty close. 49, 48, 48, 47, 46, 44, 41, that's pretty close as well. I love how close these leagues are. I've never seen anything like it. And just for barometer of growth as well, the Turkish First Division, the second league in Turkey, that's risen from 41st to 37th. And then if we look at the second groups, they've gone from 92nd to 88. So they've grown both a little bit as well. But obviously not as nearly as good as the Turkish leagues up in 9th position. So if we look at the transfers then for the past few seasons from these teams then in the top division of Super League, first season 40 million being spelt by Besiktas here, is a name that I've obviously got wrong again completely, do forgive me, but Roger Martinez there, 40 million has gone to them. Mario Balotelli goes from Nice to Besiktas for 27, rising to 39 million. That's a lot of money for Mario Balotelli. Nuri Sahin from Dortmund to Galatasaray, and a few of the names there that I'm not too familiar with, but I presume a lot of these are Turkish names actually. I think a lot of these guys probably are Turkey, like this guy Dennis is a Turkish man, for example. He's gone back to Trabzonspor for 6.5 million there. Season afterwards, not quite as high transfer fees being spent, but Christian Basagog from Hanan to Kasim Pasa for 24.5 million, right to 38 million is the biggest transfer. Berke Özkan goes from Stuttgart to Besiktas. And then there's a few other Turkish names there. A lot of Turkish guys coming back to Turkey by looks of them. They're coming away from, or at least they're coming back from these foreign leagues, and they're coming back into the Turkish side. So I guess they're sort of prioritising which players they want. Perhaps there is some sort of rule saying you have to have a certain amount of Turkish players. That would make sense. I'll look at the rules in a minute. And then the season we just had, Moussa Dembele from Marseille to Galatasaray for 61 million, rising to 78 million is the biggest transfer there. Obviously moved to Marseille after being at Celtic for a little bit. Now he's gone to Galatasaray for a huge sum of money. Vincent Abu Bakar gone from FCP Porto to Galatasaray as well. Galatasaray spending a lot of money that season. Roger Martinez, that biggest transfer in the first season, has left the club and he's gone to Besiktas as well for 25 million, rising to 40 million. So he's had a bit of a high spending career for teams wanting him. Thomas Munayer from PSG to Besiktas as well for 21, rising to 31 million. A lot of money being spent by these top teams, Galatasaray and Besiktas. They are spending upwards of 100 million easily. It's crazy kind of money being spent, but I suppose if they are the biggest teams with the biggest reputation, they're the ones that are going to be spending the money and getting the players in. So in terms of squad registration, there's only 14 foreign players at the maximum, so it's not too bad, to be fair. You could have a whole starting 11 of non-foreign players, for example. The wage cap of 70% of a turnover is the wage cap, so these clubs at the moment seem to have a turnover of £1 billion, so they are allowed to spend a lot of money on wages, I think, at the moment. But what I have noticed more than that is prize money for a win. £500,000 for every win. So if you won all 34 games, you'd be absolutely rolling in money by the end of the season. You'd be earning millions if you won every single game in the season. And first place gets a cool £10 million as well. So there's a lot of prize money in Turkey, which is pretty cool, to be fair. Right, we know the state of Turkish football is pretty good, to be fair. It's a high standard, so I think we're pretty comfortable looking at these European competitions, going straight into the knockout stages and looking at who's made it. So in this first season, Fenerbahce made it into the first knockout round in the first season that we did, the 2017-18 season, but they lose to Lille 5-2 on aggregate, which isn't very good. Konyaspor also in the Europa League, but lose to AC Milan 2-0 on aggregate, so again another Turkish team being knocked out there. But Besiktas beat Ajax 4-3 on aggregate despite losing the second leg. So Besiktas go through into the second knockout round where they beat Braga. They beat them 4-1 on aggregate, 2-0 in the second leg there, or 2-1 on the second leg, sorry. So they get through into the quarterfinal after taking out Braga. They beat Lyon on penalties there, so we're going to see an early winner of a competition here as Besiktas march themselves into the semi-finals after winning on penalties. Semi-finals, do they make it through? They make it through into the final actually in this first season against Villarreal. Already we're seeing results here. So Besiktas win on penalties against Barcelona of all sides. That must have been a very, very tough draw. They came back from a deficit as well to win 2-1 in the second leg. And then if we look at the final, they actually go and win it. Wow, I genuinely was not expecting that at all. Besiktas win the Europa League in their first season. Obviously that money had an instant impact on their chances of winning it, and they've gone and won it, beat Villarreal in the final. Already incredible stuff, incredible scenes there from Besiktas. So that's the first season. I mean, I'm speechless really. I didn't think that would happen, but it has done. So Besiktas have already won a European Cup, something that's not happened for a long time, one of these videos actually. Season afterwards though, Galatasaray are the only side in the first knockout round of the Europa League, which is a bit of a poor showing actually. Wouldn't expect to see a few more guys there, but they won it. They beat Nice there 2-0 on aggregates to get to the second knockout round where they beat Borussia Mönchengladbach and beat them 3-1 on aggregate. Are we going to see another Turkish side winning it already? If you look in the quarterfinals, Galatasaray, once again, they get through. They beat Napoli this time 4-3 on aggregate. Are we going to see back-to-back Turkish sides winning the Europa League? Look in the semi-final, they do lose though to Chelsea 4-0 on aggregate, but this is a fantastic start already. Two teams making it to the semi-finals and one of them went on to win it, which is incredible. So fair play Turkish side, you're doing pretty well already. And then if we look in the season that we have just had, where are the Turkish sides here? Besiktas are there, they win 2-1 against Marseille there in the first knockout round. But they're the only Turkish side there, never not. Trabzonspor also there, but they lose to RB Leipzig, unfortunately. They won the second leg, but weren't able to overcome a 2-0 defeat in the first leg there. So just Besiktas going through in the first knockout stages. Second knockout round, where are they? I can't even see them. Where are they? Oh, there they are. They lost to AC Milan, so getting knocked out in the second round this time round, which isn't very good. But I think they've already shown that they're a pretty decent side by winning it in that first season. So fair play Besiktas, you're pretty good. Now let's have a look at the Champions League instead. So we're in the first knockout round of the Champions League back in the 2017-18 season, but unfortunately no Turkish sides there in that competition. 18-19 season, not there again, so I guess Besiktas will have got automatic qualification into the Champions League this season for winning the Europa League, but couldn't make it count by getting through their group. And then the season we've just had, no Turkish sides there. So let's see in the group stages how they actually do it. If we look at all groups, for example, now we're going to have to scroll down a little bit and just look for Turkish sides. Besiktas are there in that very first season, but they finished third, which obviously put them into the Europa League instead, but they came third by a long way. But it was alright for them because they went on to win the Europa League instead, didn't they? So that was pretty good. But they were the only Turkish side there. Galatasaray didn't seem to make it. Season afterwards, is there a Turkish side there? Yeah, Besiktas are there once again, obviously they must have qualified for winning the Europa League, but finished bottom of their group, so didn't do anything there, unfortunately. No other Turkish sides here though, as I can see, which is again a bit unfortunate. I would expect to see at least two sides here. And then the season we have just had, Galatasaray must be there. They are there, but they come bottom of their group again. So poor performances in the Champions League, but incredible performances in the Europa League. Right then, that is it for this episode. Part 2 will come pretty soon. I think next time we're going to go 5 years in the future, because I think a lot is going to happen in a short space of time. I still think that. I mean, obviously, the 3 years we just had, in terms of league performances and moving up the European rankings, it's not changed too much. But we have had 2 semi-finalists and a winner of a European competition already. So I do think a lot's going to change. And I think 5 years' time, we're going to see a lot of change. So we'll go 5 years in the future for next time. And hopefully we'll see some more improvements in the Champions League. Just before we go though, if you want to join the Discord server that we've got going for the channel and talk to me and talk to other people on the channel and things like that, then there's a link in the description to the Discord. There's a good number of you guys in there now, so it's nice talking to you all. And it's a nice little community thing we've got going on there. So if you're interested, make sure you do join that in the description. description down below. Thank you very much for watching today's episode. If you've enjoyed it, make sure you do drop a like. Subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll see you next time for some more billionaire action.